as he's dying, he looks to Raccoon. He looks to, God damn it.
He's a douche hammer.
If I had laser vision and I could freeze you with my breath, there'd be a lot less people around.
I hear that movie was great.
Stick around, 'cause I am coming back. And I know someday I'm gonna make it better.
Talk about shit we talk about anyway. Just sit here.
Seriously. That's the plan. That's the dream. But anyway, all right, let's get to the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Nick, Jon, and Jamie Show. I am Jon.
I am Nick.
And I am Jamie.
You got to color that up a little bit. Do you think we should still do that?
I don't care. It's up to you.
Still good, right?
Well, it's his call sign.
Yeah, that's right. Now
Unless we come up with nicknames or something like that.
It's a tradition now. We can't give it up. We do have some guests. We're continuing with the guests on the Nick, Jon, and Jamie Show. Our last episode, we had our local law enforcement hero, Jerry, join us for some engaging conversation. And this week, we not only have one guest, but two guests. We have Pat Flynn, dear friend of the show, dear friend of all of ours. And we have Marc Ticknor, another friend of the show. Marc's been a friend of Nick's for God knows how long. I mean,
Second grade?
Second grade, childhood friend.
You owe me a lot of money, dude.
That's how you stay friends. I'd rather owe you than cheat you out of it. So we're going to get into it. We're going to run down just the show. Typically, we do. We're going to start off with the news. We'll start off with the news. We just had this new Star Wars Episode 9. There's a lot of news going on with Star Wars Episode 9. I wanted to just bring up that there was an article that dropped. I don't think you're going to be happy with this, Jamie.
Great.
Article dropped that I don't know how much you guys know about what's going on with some of the premises that have been suggested for Star Wars Episode 9.
I've been trying not to read them, honestly. Seriously.
Well, so do you know about the 5 years in the future?
I don't mind that, actually.
So you do know about it?
No, I don't, because you got to think about Empire and Jedi were like a couple years apart, and same with New Hope and Empire. It wasn't like the next day and, the story for Last Jedi.
Well, and that's the beat they're taking. They're taking the Empire beat. They're basically saying, rumor, right? Nothing's been substantiated by Disney or Lucasfilms, that they're going to set this one 5 years in the future. And apparently the First Order has if there's still the conflict, there's Rey has also had, they might have been listening to the show because they've apparently given her 5 years now to mature her Force abilities.
All powerful now, like more powerful than Yoda.
I don't know who's taught her anything.
Nobody needs to. The girl is
that's
awesome.
That's off the Jedi shit. Like the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Very similar beats, right? So the thing and that's fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the 5 year beat.
As long as milk doesn't shoot out of Jabba's tits.
It's not Jabba, it's Bantha.
That's what I'm saying now.
But here's the thing that kind of threw me for a loop. A little cringiness was that Rey and Kylo are secretly in love.
Oh, God.
And they're able to manifest this across the galaxy through this sort of enhanced force projection.
How about like some incestual shit like before?
Well, if they're not brother and sister, then there's no incest.
Well, who knows? They could be like third cousins or something like that.
Well, I think it's only fair if we saw...
The Outer Rim has got dueling banjos.
I think it's only fair if we saw Kylo with his shirt on. Nah, I know Star Wars never
You mean Rey?
Yeah.
So what don't you like about that?
So what I don't like about it is that there's two things. One is there is nothing to substantiate the backstory, right? They're just going to leap into this with this new movie. And I think because the Last Jedi was so weak in
And The Force Awakens. Let's not forget about that.
And The Force Awakens, I mean, I know
okay.
it's...
I was okay with that.
I was
I'm
okay
okay
with
with
it.
Force-
I was majorly disappointed.
Really?
I wasn't disgusted like
I thought it was
with The Last
good.
Jedi.
I thought it was all right.
But it didn't invest me in any of the characters. So I really don't
Agreed.
even care what they do with Kylo or whatever her name is at this point because I don't have any attachment to them.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that was the saving grace with The Force Awakens was what was so disappointing about The Last Jedi. We were already invested in these characters because we already did, A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. So we already loved Han Solo, Chewbacca, R2-D2, C-3PO, and of course Luke, who they saved to the very, very end.
And Mary Poppins.
And, well, that was Last Jedi, right? so we already had that. We don't have anything like that with these new characters. So they're already going to throw you into it where there's a love story going into it. Here's another thing. Supposedly there is Rey is pregnant in this one.
Ah, cool.
What?
And that Kylo is
Does she give birth to Snook's whereabouts and like what the hell he's all about? Just asking.
He's just waiting for that backstory. Snoke was the antithesis of the Thanos backstory.
Did anybody try to explain that? Like why we
No.
never got an explanation?
We
they didn't have time to explain
I want to know
why
about the
they
Hugh
couldn't
Hefner
explain
robe.
things.
Oh, the gold
Significant.
lame robe?
Yeah, that made sense.
Did you see that fact that in the scene where they were all fighting in that room, that there was like a move that I guess some guy that never got laid in his life figured out that why Rey was holding her
I waited
lightsaber.
for my wife.
Yeah, right. He must have rewound this shit like 100 times, but there actually was a move. It was done correctly. Rey would actually died, but then
Yes,
like,
I did see that.
it was like, oh man, I give the guy
Well, it was
credit,
a bad
but he
cut too, right?
It was a total against who else edited that fucking movie.
Yeah. Well, there's one more little tidbit as far as the Star Wars rumor mill is, Star Wars Episode 9 rumor mill is concerned. Not only is Rey pregnant, but Kylo actually gets so infuriated because they have this love connection that he attacks her and tries to kill her. And
Well, is it like the Immaculate Conception, like Anakin?
that was the third point I was going to bring up,
Oh, no.
that it's a Force baby.
I mean, the whole thing just reeks of Anakin and Padme, and that was horrible.
Yeah,
So let's do
that went well, right?
Let's do that right.
That just reeks of shit. Like, let's start over. Let's hit the reset fucking button.
So again, there is the opposite of the New Hope. There's Episode 9, No Hope.
You were waiting to say that one, weren't
I've
you?
been saving that up for a long time.
This is bumming me out, really.
Yeah, I hope
so
you're wrong.
let's turn that around. All right, I'm going to turn that around. It's still on the Star Wars tip.
All right.
All right, Rick Moranis is looking to reprise
coming
his role
back.
as Dark Helmet.
No.
He's doing a special episode of The Goldbergs where
Sweet.
he actually is in, I believe it's a dream sequence where he
Loves the
dons
Goldbergs.
Combs the beach?
he combs the beach and dons the oversized
They
Darth
really,
Vader helmet.
they can't do it over again. Not over, but do a new one because it's just been so long. But God damn, Spaceballs was such a great
He's not coming out of
movie.
retirement though. This is
Well,
just a one and done.
And one and done.
Oh,
But-
he's retired. I didn't know he was retired.
Yeah, he gave up his life for his kids. His wife
Yeah,
died.
Honey, I Shrunk My Career.
and
what a
he just
good
became
story, though.
a good family man. Yeah, it is a good story.
Yeah, his wife passed away of cancer, and he was like, "Listen, I have to take care of my kids," and that's what he's been doing since.
Yeah, it's
I
not
think
like it's not like he
96.
needed money anyway.
No,
I mean,
he
he
was-
had like a bunch of hits.
Dude, he was in like 20, 30 movies.
Yeah,
It was
he
like
was-
Disney was like popping them out
Dude,
for
he
him
was
back in
cleaning
the day.
up for a while.
Yeah, I think he records music still. Doesn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, he's still. That's a good point. Yeah, he does still record
He's
music.
still being creative.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, you can't fault the guy at all. I mean,
Nah.
we just would love to see him in more stuff.
He's funny.
And maybe he got out, and that's the key. You get out when people still are. In
Yeah,
love
well,
with
you know what? Some people should take some notes from that guy. Strike while the iron's hot. You know what I mean? Like, or leave when you're hot.
Better to burn out than
Yeah,
take away.
exactly. You got that
Just
right.
do the right thing,
Yeah.
Wife comes out with cancer, you got responsibilities. You don't go out partying.
you. Exactly. Take care of business, and he did in a big way. And he's coming back as Dark Helmet, and I just want to see that.
What happened to the guy that makes all the noises? I like that guy. He was in Police Academy. Spaceballs.
The bleeps, the creeps.
That dude's awesome.
Michael something.
He was
Yeah,
badass.
Fact check.
So Rambo, Sylvester Stallone is still
5.
kicking ass. I mean, he's coming out with Rambo 5 and he's going to be in Creed 2. Now, we have this big peeve with Hollywood where it's all rehash and repeat. And
Yeah, but he I don't know. He has something about it because I'm telling you that last Rambo wasn't that bad.
It wasn't.
I liked it.
It was good.
No, it was decent.
And Creed.
Yeah,
Creed was good.
Creed was awesome.
Creed
I still have not
Creed was
seen it.
really good. That was like a top good movie. But I'm saying like in general, like the rehashes suck. So Stallone somehow has the recipe, which is odd.
he's
weird.
He's been banging out hits since the late 70s.
Yeah, well, the Untouchables. That was
Yeah,
The Untouchables?
not Untouchables. Sorry. Where he Expendables. That's what
Oh,
it was
yeah,
called.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first two I loved.
It's just it's not even popcorn, it's caramel corn, and you just jam it in your mouth. It's like you don't go into it for anything but looking at these old action heroes get together and doing what they did in the 80s and 90s.
See, that's what I was talking about a couple, maybe 10 episodes back, where you're good at something, stick with it. Who cares if you're never going to win an Oscar? Like Tom Cruise, like these guys we're talking about. They're making money. Tom Cruise is coming out with another Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
That shit looks badass.
It does.
I want to see that movie.
Henry Cavill looks really badass in that too.
I'm a fan.
Superman.
Yeah,
as long as he doesn't have
The Man from U.N.C.L.E., as soon as I saw that movie, he blew me away. I was sold.
Yeah, me too. I didn't even know this. I thought it would have been news, but Shazam, the movie, DC's movie Shazam, just wrapped. I realized it like wrapped, and it wrapped like it was like a fart in the wind. Like I didn't care about it. I don't think anybody is really giving a shit about this movie. What do you guys think? Do you think DC is?
Don't even know what it is.
So Shazam's Captain Marvel. So Billy Batson was this kid who discovered this magic cavern, and he was able to summon the power of Shazam. All right, and he's part of the DC canon, DC universe. Warner Brothers has invested a ton of cash to making a Shazam movie. Now, it's not along the lines with Justice League and Flash and Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, everything that was just happening in the Justice League, but it's kind of like Warner Brothers taking another swing at the plate to have another superhero movie come out, and I don't think anybody cares. And I'm looking at the looks on your faces, guys, and I don't think you guys give a shit either.
Don't care.
I didn't hate the Batman vs Superman or Justice League. I think as much as most people. I'll give them.
I don't hate it, and I didn't hate it either. I just thought there was a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Saw an interesting point online how the DC movies are just darker, and I don't mean like the mood's darker. I mean the actual scenes, everything. Fights are at night and there's less detail. Whereas you take Infinity Wars, everything's during the day and everything's bright and all the action's right there. But the DC movies aren't. They're dark and hard to follow. Kind of like you look at Wonder Woman. A final fight scene. It's all at night on that airfield, and you can see the two main characters, but everything going off, in the background, it's hard to see, kind of.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a cheat sometimes with special effects to go dark. Yeah, and I think regarding like their costumes and the mood and the tone, I read an article ages ago that DC they knew that they had to fight against. They combined. They thought gritty meant real, and dark meant gritty.
Right.
And that sort of set the tone for the universe when it was okay to sort of have. It could have been two things. It could have been budget, and it's a cheaper way to get special effects pulled off, and then or two, they just sort of missed the beat on stylization.
Right.
Well, the only one that really should have been dark from DC is Batman.
Yes,
We talked about it last time.
and that movie never happened.
Exactly.
They canned it.
Well, put it this way. Ben Affleck is out as from
done.
Because he wanted to direct, and then they told him no. Right? Is that how it went
He would have
down?
did a killer Batman. If you saw The Town?
Oh, I love The Town.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. And he's a great director. I mean, he's what
He's
was
got an
it?
Academy Award for directing.
I know. I don't understand why you wouldn't let him, considering where your franchises are going, why would you let him run with it? Give him a shot.
Yeah, I mean,
Couldn't do any worse.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, you
Unless
you
could
get
have
Ryan Johnson.
Well, you could have Matt Damon as Robin.
Yeah,
That would fit.
Matt Damon's already Marvel.
Yeah.
that's right. He was in Thor Ragnarok.
Yep.
So we've done a couple episodes now. First, out of the gate on Infinity War, right after we saw the movie, and then we did a follow up. We're still loving the movie, of course.
What did it do? 112 at the box office this weekend
It broke $1 billion so
already.
far. Yeah.
Holy shit! That's worldwide though.
It's worldwide,
but
so,
still, it's gonna. I think it'll come close to 2 by time's end.
Yeah, well, Infinity Wars they're at 450. I think as of yesterday, worldwide they're at 1.16 billion. Noah's number 2, and we joked about this last episode.
What's that?
Overboard.
Oh,
The
no
remake.
way.
I
New
swear
one?
to God,
No.
yeah.
Dude, I like the first one.
I did
I'm
too.
gonna put it out there.
We brought it up when we.
My wife made me watch it like 2 or 3 years ago.
It's good.
It's a nice movie.
It was
Kurt Russell is just. I'm
It
sorry.
was a fun movie.
Yes,
He's
he's always
America's
made.
sweetheart.
He a Big Trouble in Little China. Who doesn't
that's one of my-
fucking
Oh my
love
God!
that?
man.
So I'm glad you said that. I wanted to bring this up. So I went down to see Infinity War for the second time in New Jersey with my mom and my nephew, and we went to dinner afterwards, and we're at the House of Brews having burgers and beers and stuff, and our waitress Kirsten, she's serving up my burger. Her plate comes across. She's got a full sleeve tattoo. And it's like flowers and everything like that. And I didn't even take a notice of it, but I see at the center of one of these orchids or flowers, it's a stormtrooper head. I'm like, holy shit, man, that's legit. And then I go down and I see this symbol at her wrist, and it's like dots and line patterns. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's the symbol from The Fifth Element. She goes, it is. And I was like, you're legit, man. You might have just earned a seat on the show. And she's like, oh, you mean the Jon and Jamie Show? The way she said it, I was like, yeah, I do feel kind of silly wearing my name on my head. Got
Got to promote it somehow, John.
But the geek culture, man, it was strong with this one. Avengers: Infinity War did 1.16 billion. Overboard, A Quiet Place.
Have you
Still
seen
kicking
that?
it.
I hear that movie was great.
I heard it was awesome. The movie cost $17 million to make. Worldwide, it's done $255 million.
Good for them, man.
Like, dudes are just cashing checks, man. They're just like,
He might win an Oscar for that.
yeah. Good for Alfred. I feel pretty. Amy Schumer's movie did $37 million. Rampage rounded out the fifth spot at $84 million. Tully is $3 million. Black Panther is still selling tickets, $1.3 billion. But
It's
look
going
at that.
out. Yeah, it's on digital today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh wait! Did
Is it really?
that surpass Last Jedi?
Oh, Black Panther?
Because I thought Last Jedi did 1.3. I wanted to beat it because of
I'm not sure.
obvious reasons.
I haven't checked. But look at the foot
Amy
race.
Schumer's movie to
Seriously.
But look at the foot race though. You got 1.1 billion, and it's 2 weeks in, and then
It's
you got
going to win.
1.3 billion, and it's been over 2 months for Black Panther. Not to shit on. I'm not shitting on Black Panther. That movie I really dug that movie, and it's a feat in itself for any of these movies to do $1 billion. And by all means, I want them all to do $1 billion because that means they're going to make more movies like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite Jim Cameron saying that the public's going to get fatigued.
He's a douche hammer.
So why don't we real quick get their Mark and Pat's opinions on Infinity War?
Absolutely.
They both saw it. I'm sure they got opinions.
Oh, I got opinions.
Oh, you want to go first? And then
Yeah,
we'll go to Mark?
well, I saw it with you guys, and I was the one who peed like 5 times in the middle of it.
That's right.
So
You're a betting
good,
man.
Good
That
thing
would've
I
been
saw it
me.
a second time to make up. I mean, I loved it. It's my favorite Marvel movie so far. I agreed with your review, and we were talking about this a little bit on the way out. They nailed the villain, and to me, that is the hinge point of any good movie. I can't think of a movie that I love that had a bad villain or an uninteresting villain. But I can think of all the movies I don't like, and usually they had a bad villain, even if they had a good protagonist, or story. So, and that was my problem with a lot of the Marvel movies. Is even if it wasn't a bad villain or a boring villain, I had trouble taking them seriously. Like even Loki, right? He's kind of goofy. He didn't seem like a threat.
Yeah.
Thanos was a threat.
But Pat, you said something I thought was really, really cool. You were like, you wondered how they were going to get out of this. Or I'm butchering what you said.
It gave me the same feeling that I had like the first time you watched Terminator, right? Mm-hmm. That to me is like as good as it gets for a villain. You have it for Terminator, you have it for Jaws, right? You
Joker and
Joker, Bane, and I think the scene where Thanos was just beating the piss out of Iron Man felt exactly like the scene when Bane was beating the piss out of Batman, right? And that to me is if you can nail that when you know the hero is just going down, there's no way out of it.
I felt that way when he was beating the piss out of the Hulk. I was just like.
Yeah,
I dropped my jaw. I'm like, shit, dude.
Yeah,
I was afraid.
Yeah, and he wouldn't come back out again.
So that being said, I mean, I give the movie a solid, like, for Rotten Tomatoes, like 95, 97%.
Yeah,
it's
we were
definitely
up there, too.
there. My only minor criticisms that we were talking about is I would have liked to have known, like, a little bit more of his motivations between the backstory, like we were talking about Marc. Like, I get it, like, your planet died and that was awful, but like why did he then want to come and be the arbiter of justice for the entire universe after that? What's the compelling
it's not
force
even
there?
Well,
And again, I'm not coming from the comic background, so I don't know. This
hear
is
you.
just
Well, in the comics, he's pretty much like a scientist. You know,
We were talking about this a little bit before the show, and you
Yeah.
were better to answer this, but didn't he kill everybody on his planet?
you know what? That I don't know.
I thought I saw it online. I didn't actually read the comic.
Yeah.
But I saw his backstory, and I thought that he was the one who did it. He basically, he was ostracized from his people because they all looked human and he was purple.
Yeah.
And he spent his whole life kind of alone anyway, and he finally snapped and started killing everybody for a purpose.
So he
Yeah,
was like
so-
a mute. Oh, go ahead.
So the way I guess it would have made more sense to me is if he did kill the people on his planet, because they made it seem like they didn't listen to him and then the catastrophe happened, which validates his premise that overpopulation is a problem. I don't think they should have validated that premise. It's a contentious premise to begin with, which we were talking about, right? It would have been better if he was just such an alarmist about it.
Yeah.
That he then interceded, and you don't know if it really is a problem, but he's just a fanatic about it. He is so sold that it is.
He has a pathology about it.
Yeah, that would have made more sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think
So I bought his motivations. I just would have liked to understand them. Like, okay, if this did happen on the planet, you obviously believe it. What compelled him to then go out and go through all that trouble? Right? Honest to God, like you think he would just be like regretful or spiteful, well, whatever. And then the only other thing, and this isn't just in Infinity War, but the other movies too, is I thought they balanced the characters really well in terms of screen time and giving them significance in the film. It just makes no sense to me when there's all these gods and super beings out there, and then you have like Scarlett Johansson's character, who's just a woman who can do like a high kick, and she's out there going toe to toe with them.
She could do a really nice high kick.
She can do a great high kick, but like
There's value there.
one of those.
I look good doing it.
There's no reason why those aliens, and this would have been traumatic at the beginning, just took her and crunched her like an accordion and then tossed her aside. That would have been awesome.
Well, in the first Avengers, or no, the second one, I think it was Ultron, when Hawkeye gets into it with Scarlet Witch, and he basically says, "None of this makes sense. I'm fighting these people with a bow and arrow."
So they nodded to that.
They nod to that, and that's where. And I agree with you. There are things if you do get into it, you have to have that pause and that suspension of disbelief. Because if not, it's not going to be a fun ride.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're still watching a superhero movie. It's not real. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's all ridiculous.
You want if you're starting on the premise that these things exist,
I
you want it to be
understand.
realistic after that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was the big selling point about Iron Man, and when the Industrial Light and Magic did such a good job at putting that suit on Tony Stark, you're like, man, this could happen. You're like, this could really happen.
Yeah.
And so that's movie magic, man. That's where
Well,
you
they've done
suspend
a
that
really good
disbelief.
job, Marvel, with making things at least seem a little bit like that with Tony Stark in a suit. Like someday, who knows?
Why
So
not?
Put that technology into a suit and walk around like Iron Man.
Well, what's really interesting is if you go and you look at like I subscribe to some sci-fi feeds, and you see people with disabilities, and you see how they're doing prosthetics, or they're doing exoskeletons, so to where people can actually just do like manual labor and enhance their strength. You're like, I wonder which was the chicken and the egg, right?
It's a jump.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Well, they even nod to it in Thor about like, do you say God, but Thor even says, my race is millions and millions of years more advanced than the humans.
Yeah, he's
Well,
1,500 years old.
He's 1,500 years old. He's like, what we say is what you think is magic is just we've been doing it for years, so it's just more advanced. So,
Did you guys hear? There was an article that James Gunn. Groot only says "I am Groot," right? But it all means something, right?
He said what it meant at the end. What he said, I didn't read it, but he said what he I was going to say rabbit again. God damn it!
As he's dying, he looks to Raccoon. He looks to God damn it. He looks to Rocket, and he says, "I am Groot," and it translates to Dad.
Another sad point.
Yeah, right?
Killing you with these little sad points.
Doesn't that bust you up a little bit?
All right, Mark, what did you think of the movie?
As with everybody, I thought it was awesome. I thought the little things were really made it for me because, like, one of the first things I said to you after I told you I saw the movie was,
Right.
I love how they went dark, like kind of like Empire, where like they leave you hanging at the end, like the bad guys winning now. I think that's awesome. I agree with you about the, they did the villain perfect. I was afraid it was going to be confusing. I thought, with all the superstars that are going to be in this movie, how do you give each one the proper amount? Like, of course, everyone wants to see Thor, maybe a little bit more than they want to see,
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, Scarlet Witch or whatever. And I thought they did it really well because I think they kind of gave everybody equal time and then filled the center with Thanos, and everybody wanted Thanos. I thought it was really cool how the last six of the people still alive are the six Avengers from the very first movie. And I think it's interesting.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to think that these guys have been doing this for 10 years, and they're all talking about not wanting to do it forever, and now they have a real opportunity to maybe lay themselves down to save the other people who are coming back with new movies, who we want to see more of anyway.
That's one question I had at the end. One, not only just the coincidence of the original Avengers, I get that, but was it a possibility that Thanos himself could have been disintegrated?
Well, he's in the Soul Stone. Nobody said that, but I'm pretty confident that he's in.
When he snapped his fingers, though, he backed into a portal, right?
So, I mean, his whole thing with this is that it was like a dispassionate lottery. Remember, he gave that thing. It's like rich, poor, whatever your being is.
He doesn't care who.
So, did he do this knowing that he himself could have been blown away?
Well,
no, because he knew
he was immune to it.
Well, he had to be because he said he was going to save Stark. That was one of the. So he knew he could save certain people. He made the deal with Doctor Strange.
Or was he just going to save Stark right there, like not kill him right then and there?
This is what I think. I think the one chance involved that Doctor Strange had to go through out of that 14 million possibilities was that he had to give it away. They all had everything had to happen in order. The plan for that one chance was longer than that. Just little. That little exchange on
because
Titan.
He knew Star-Lord was going to fuck everything up.
Yeah, probably. He probably saw through all that, right? And so I think it's a long game that Doctor Strange is playing.
Yeah.
And I think he had a big axe in his chest, so he needed some place to heal. And I think going into the Soul Stone was the place where he went to heal.
Because if he didn't he went anywhere else, he probably would have died right away.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been interesting if he did get blown away, because then it's like, well, now you're never going to get your justice.
Yeah.
Avengers.
Well,
he just terminates himself at the end. Like, you might be able to bring some of your friends back. I don't know who theirs, but you'll never be able to get it back at Thanos.
The hubris thing, though, Thor, everybody says Star-Lord. This was from Anthony Russo, I think. Everybody said Star-Lord fucked it all up, but if you think about it,
Thor did too.
Thor did too.
He could have went for the hand or the head, and he would have stopped him.
Yeah, but
would've
he wanted
cut
to look him in the face and tell him that he killed him, and this is what I was going to do.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that because I always, through the whole movie, Thor was kind of a badass dude, except for the opening scene where he got his ass kicked. But after that, man, just went through a spree of just going through getting shit done.
Yeah, right.
Getting fucked up by a star,
Being
didn't
badass
care.
with his lightning.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
Comes back with a hammer and kills half the forces on Earth. It was pretty cool.
And then there's the cliffhanger with Drax.
Yeah.
What
Well, go ahead.
Is he dead or is he just standing really still?
That's funny. I didn't think of that at all.
That's funny.
So I think we're all on the same page when it comes to our mutual love fest for Infinity War. It's going to be. I thought this one was going to be really hard to pull off. 4 is going to be even harder, as long as they don't do some gimmicky cheat with time.
Back in time.
I hear they are though, because somebody leaked some photos, and I don't know if they're true, but of them being back at the Battle of New York, and they all having some kind of bands on their arms. But Ant-Man's there too, but it's the original cast being back at the Battle of New York. So I don't know if they're
then
true,
they
but that was
more.
on set pictures. So it's all here or there speculation right now because we're all just trying to get more information.
Yeah, to
But-
a certain point, it's like we're thirsty for it, but we don't want to be spoiled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because they've done it right so far, and
I have faith in
in
them.
the case of this movie especially, they kind of exceeded my expectations.
It's so funny.
Absolutely.
You got this Disney's this major corporation that has done so many right things with Marvel, and then on the other side, I'm not getting back into that, but you should look at it as a whole.
He's trying to pull us back down.
No, I'm not.
In
I'm
the
not. I'm
rabbit
really
hole.
not.
Rabbit
I'm not.
hole.
It just pisses me off. I'm just looking at it as a whole. I'm like, fuck,
He's
man.
sucking me in, dude. I'm gonna leap right in this motherfucker right now.
Come on in, the water's fine. So I think anything else you guys want to add as far as your Avengers
No
experience?
proverbial bops over the head to Star Wars.
We're getting the Han Solo trailer.
Yeah. That looks good, man. I'm pumped up about the Solo.
Yeah, the Solo's looking tight. That's coming out soon.
That's another one too. Like, how do you produce Rogue One and then go to that? Like, I don't get it.
Just a different suite of talent, man.
My whole view on Star Wars right now, and of course every movie I'll watch, but you got to give something to me before I'm giving you any emotion before a movie comes out.
Yeah, some people are out.
I'm out.
Out, like not going to see the movie?
I'm out in that they don't get a ticket from me automatically just because they're Star Wars.
They got to earn it.
That's a good
I'm not
point.
that
That's a good,
far.
John was talking about.
I mean, if it comes out and everybody says that they've turned around, it's amazing, then I'll go see it.
Certainly.
But I'm not.
especially the episode movies. It seems like they're doing a good job on the story, the side stories, like Rogue One.
Rogue One.
I loved it.
the
And this
winner.
Han Solo movie, and because I know they got a great director doing it, looks fantastic. Whether this guy pulls off Han or not, the cast around him is phenomenal, and you have a great director. So I'm going to see that. But the episode movies, man, I might, like you said, Pat, I might not see that. I normally would see it opening night, no question. I probably might not even see it opening weekend, the next one, just because
Got to feel it out.
feel it out. And I think I might go bandwagon with the next trilogy with you, John.
Yeah.
'Cause
I might boycott that shit.
I have a question for discussion here. How do we feel about Chewie not being Peter Mayhew?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Me
doesn't
too. At
bother
first,
me.
I was a little upset, but then I thought, you know what? Peter Mayhew looks like he can barely walk around
Yeah.
anymore.
And you need this cat. It's a young Chewie, even though he's
Right.
190 years old.
Supposedly,
Yeah.
supposedly they talk about how they hated each other when they first met.
Oh, really?
It's not a huge spoiler, but I think Ron Howard was talking about it's not exactly a love
Yeah,
fest
love
when
fest at once.
they first meet.
Interesting.
Oh, Han and Chewie.
Han and Chewie, yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully he gets to pull the arms off.
You know what probably happens is Han's probably working for the Empire at the time. Probably springs them, something
Yeah.
like that. You know,
I know. It
They
looks
will run
good.
into Jabba.
I want to run into Boba
I hope
Fett.
they
fuck,
bring Jabba.
Fuck
Yeah, me
Jabba.
too.
I love Jabba.
I think they'll bring him in there.
I want to see Boba Fett. Fuck
I like
Jabba.
Jabba too. My concern is that we'll get the remake Jabba when they remade
CGI Jabba.
the CGI. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to puppet Jabba.
yeah.
No,
But he wouldn't be because
I'm
he's
sorry. If they get the guy that made
moving
Thanos, I'm
around
good
at
with that.
age, right?
Yeah.
True. Fact check? We got 2.
Oh shit!
Nice.
It was on me. First one was minor, very minor. Elizabeth Olsen is actually the younger sister of the Olsen.
So I was right, but
yeah.
In reverse order.
Still
damn, John, you're fucking up on those
I
Olsen
know.
girls.
That's 2 in a row. And just the only other one we had was I referred to Azad, Ursa, and Nan as Kryptons instead of Kryptonians.
Oh.
It's a faux pas in the geek community. It's just inexcusable. I mean, come on.
That's like calling Obi-Wan Obi.
Oh, John. Jamie just put you in your place, boy.
I'm just kidding.
And I got some fun facts. We already talked about the one which was a group called Rocket Dad before he died.
Yeah.
And this one I didn't realize, but our favorite Canadian X-Man, Logan, when we were talking about the adamantium thing, I don't know if I said this during the podcast. Without the adamantium, he weighs 195 pounds. He's 5'3".
195 pounds without it?
Without it.
Holy shit.
He's a
And
little
he's-
guy,
and
5'3".
he's
now.
5'3".
That's what I mean. That's a fucking lie.
He's
dude.
300 pounds with it.
That's badass.
Yeah.
So he's badass.
No wonder it's killing him.
Yeah.
But slowly kills him, right? That's what they were
Yeah.
hinting to in Logan.
Poison.
Well, he takes glucosamine chondroitin, so it helps his joints.
That movie was awesome.
That movie was awesome.
It was very
It was your
awesome.
favorite X-Men movie by far, right?
Yeah, I dug it. I like how they did that.
Yeah, it made it dark, and that's that. See, you would hope these other companies take that and say, you know what, it doesn't all have to be happy days in these freaking Marvel, DC movies. It can be dark like that, dark in a real way, not like Gotham's like a dark city.
That's why I was bummed out about
That's
the
Daredevil.
whole. Well, that's what.
Yes.
Yeah, Daredevil.
But that's I'm talking. That's not a movie yet, though. Well,
Sure.
it was. And that one's
sure
not
was.
a movie.
But yeah,
But,
Boy.
but that's why I was bummed out about the whole, like how they ruined the concept of that whole Venom thing. I think like the premise of it is it's dumb. I wish they would. I really like the whole concept of coming out with like just a Venom movie and then maybe like a Carnage movie, but seriously,
Got to be tied to Spidey.
Yeah, it's got to be. There, it makes no damn sense without Spider-Man. It
like
just doesn't.
It's like making a Joker movie without having Batman in it. That
Yeah,
would
it-
make that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So let's shift gears a little bit. So we texted back and forth a little bit talking about something that it's kind of been banging around the old cabeza. Why do we love all this stuff? Where does this interest get started? Where does it come from? How come, I grew up in my area of the world, and, well, not even. I grew up in New Jersey. You guys grew up in PA. But we all have different backgrounds, but we all gravitate towards these heroes' tales, right? And we latched onto it when we were kids, and it sort of sunk its hook, and we could not be happier that it's hitting pop culture the way it's hitting and mainstream culture the way it's hitting. I just know when it happened for me. God, I sound like I'm coming out of the closet. But I know when it happened for me. It was like when I was a kid, it was Saturday morning cartoons. That was the first little, peek into this adventure.
Care Bears?
Well,
No, I'm kidding.
my heart's no, not Care Bears, Nick. it was Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Oh yeah, that was a great cartoon.
Right, and then sort of piqued my interest, and then I just there was two places. There was the auction that my mom and dad used to go to. It was like a farmer's mart, and they had a comic book shop there, and they actually didn't even have. They sold them for a quarter a piece, and they had. You cut the tops off them to get like a coupon for some other offer.
Really?
So they were like, it's heresy now. You never cut the cover off of a comic book. But that was just something where they were like, I think 60 cents a piece as face value. And then they were like 25 cents because they were damaged. And then I would grab them. My dad would sell junk out in the auction. and I would read these comic books, and it just piqued my imagination. And they were fantastic, and they were actually probably more sophisticated as far as stories than most 8 or 9-year-old kids would. Like, my parents knew that they were a little bit more serious and a little bit more dramatic. They just didn't know. They probably would have been like, hey, what do you got there? And, maybe even been a little skeptical about as far as me reading that type of mature material. But they didn't. And I just dove in feet first. And when I was a kid, there was nothing that I wanted more to see these heroes come to life. I mean, and now, here I am in my 40s, and they're coming to life in the biggest, baddest way possible, with every dollar that Hollywood has to offer to make these things into as, a realistic story as possible. So what do you think? What do you think it is? What do you think it is that draws us to these fantastic characters and stories?
What do you think, Jamie? You were big in the comic books, like John.
Yeah, same thing. I think that's pretty funny too, because I used to go to the farmers market right down the street from my house, and that's where I started buying comic
really?
books. Yeah, no shit. And then I got sucked into the Pog thing. That's a whole different story. What the hell were those things? Like, think about that. Like, what was I thinking? Whatever. Anyway, no, but yeah, cartoons and comic books. It's just, like the story. That's why I always preach the story. And that's why, I get really bummed out when, you see a good story go bad, like the whole Star Wars thing. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But then you see the Avengers. I'm amazed at how they kept that story 10 years strong and then finish it up with, a really good... it's not the ending, but it gives you hope for another good one, and it's awesome. It's definitely, it's different than what we're used to seeing. Usually you see one and done, 2 and done, 3 and done, and then that's it. You know what I mean? Like Lord of the Rings was good. Mm-hmm. All those were good. Now The Hobbit,
You're talking about the movies?
Yeah, we're talking about movies.
Well, The Hobbit was a money grab.
I could deal with the first one, and then I'm gone.
Stretching it 3 books. We talked about 3 movies was totally a stretch.
Yeah, you milked it on that one. But those were good. But as far as the Avengers, man, they really stepped it up on that.
Do you think though with these characters that we're falling in love with, do you think it's a part of ourselves that wants to? They embody things that we want to emulate?
Well, that and now more than ever, the way the world is today, it's there's a lot of ill will out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So this is a good chance to sit down and let go of that for a little bit, and then you can sit there and pretend, because that's the whole point of the comic books and cartoons is sit there and picture that you're Thor or whatever. You know what I mean? And then let go. And that's why the story is so important. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When you see them half-ass stuff, some of the DC stuff, Wonder Woman was great, and then the Batman versus Superman. It's you could have done better than that. You know what I mean? And then I'm not lost in that. Mm-hmm. It just
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, Marvel just has hit it. The Marvel Disney universe has hit it.
But why superheroes though? I mean, why not? Why not war films? Why not cowboy movies?
Well, it should be in all of those. So you're hinting at something much deeper, which is the idea of myth.
Yeah.
In general.
Yes.
And why do we see these myths recur through all the major religions, all the major cultures, all the major politics, and now in pop culture? The fact that we see it in pop culture is really just a very recent phenomenon for how these go. I remember the first time we talked about the first time that we kind of came to realize this. I remember for me, I was young and I was really into Tolkien.
Yeah.
And Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And there's a famous story about him and C.S. Lewis talking about this very topic. Have you heard this?
No. Go ahead.
So Tolkien studied myths, exactly what we're talking about, archetypes, like these, what makes for a good story, what later came to be known as the hero's journey, right? And you can see it applied in superhero movies and religion.
Oh, they talk
and
about it in
this and
Star
that,
Wars
right?
all the time with Luke.
So he studied it incessantly, and he would talk about it with C.S. Lewis, because they were both novelists at the time and storytellers, so they really wanted to master, like, where did these come from? Why do we believe these, this or that? And the famous story, the famous part about that is Tolkien was very religious. He was Catholic, and Lewis was an atheist. And what Tolkien convinced Lewis was that these archetypes, not only where they come from, which is part evolution, but what they point to, which is a higher transcendent calling, whatever. And then his final argument that actually converted Lewis into the famous Christian apologist was that it all culminated in Jesus. Jesus was the myth. He was the archetype that actually happened. So his argument was twofold. One, there is a huge evolutionary history to it, which is very true. We can see that these archetypes actually, part of the theory is that they develop from primal hierarchies, and that how you organize a society is around something like a hero, somebody who is self-sacrificial, willing to put themselves out there. And natural selection would operate on something like that, right? To preserve that. And that kind of gets soaked into the psyche, so to speak.
Right.
And then that these would be passed down long before they were written down in many different forms, psychological memes, etc., like that. And then they started to get written down. But then the other point of that is that it doesn't end, that's not an exhaustive explanation for it. It's supposed to point to other things like what we want to become and what we should be looking for, reaching for. So that's why I said before we talked, like, this is a very deep subject, not in pop culture, but in psychology, in philosophy, in evolutionary biology. This very topic of myth is studied from every angle that you can imagine. But for me, that exposed it to me was the Tolkien and C.S. I just found that story so interesting.
Yeah,
because they had pretty much this exact conversation.
That is interesting because, I mean, as far as Tolkien takes his characters and just he steeps them deep in this history, right? I mean, thousands of years, the Iluvatar, the Anar, and talking about how the elves and he creates, when we go talk about well-rounded, right? He creates deep characters with a lot of lineage and a lot of, like I said, history. But there's this, if you look at, and they captured it in the movies where it's the two towers and the Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli are running down the Uruk-hai, right? And they're running, like he says, the masters are at their backs with whips or whatever, and they're running for days, right? Days. And it's because they have this lineage and this history that makes them above average. Right?
They're not human. Even Aragorn wasn't human.
What makes them, let's just say, superhuman, right?
To a degree.
But there's an affection and an adoration, and that you want to. It's what makes people.
I wish I could be like that.
Yes, I want to be a. You see a David Goggins who's
and they're also
guy
good
is
people.
a super marathon runner, and you're like, holy shit! At the very least, you respect the hell out of a person that can accomplish that, and so. It's interesting that you pointed that out, Pat, because you're right. There's these aspirational goals, but then there's a leap where aspiration is just unattainable, and then there's just this storytelling and affection for what is our current day modern mythology. Which
superheroes.
And
Right?
what I think is interesting about that is Marvel got some back talk about Ragnarok, how. When Odin died, they didn't even mention Valhalla in the movie. They don't even mention it because Disney's been basically trying to remove the word God or gods from, they're a Christian company.
Yeah.
So they don't like the Norse gods but he's evolving. Now he's a superhero, which is they're selling our childhood back to us at this point.
Right.
We grew up on this stuff, and now we're the prime target, and we get to share it with our kids, man.
Yeah.
And it jazzes us up, so we go spend loads and loads of money on toys and merchandise and all that stuff. And they got what they want, and we got what we want, and it's evolving now. And another 100 years, who knows what these things will be to later generations. I mean, somebody might be sitting having a podcast talking about what Disney's done with Marvel, the same way you're talking about Tolkien and
Yeah,
having a conversation.
it's part.
you know?
It could be part of the fabric of our society, of our history.
Yeah, you know who could tell a real good story? John Hughes, man. That dude was fucking awesome.
The 80s. How could Ducky Boy not be anybody's hero? It's fascinating to me because I've always had an affection for this stuff, and it's been one of those things to where I never tied it to anything, but just I dig it. Like nobody, like even to the point where, and I've shared this with the guys. I was the kid that stayed inside, watched cartoons till 12 o'clock, and then when the cartoons were over, watched monster movies throughout the afternoon until my mom and my dad were like, what are you still doing inside? Get the hell out.
It's funny that now you do that with your kids, but with devices.
Yeah, get the hell out of the screen.
Get the hell out of it.
Oh, speaking of which, Fortnite. Fortnite's the super du jour,
dude.
right? So Thanos is Infinity War is coming to Fortnite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Fortnite, I don't know if you guys know about Fortnite.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to put in a battle royale. They're going to put the gauntlet in the middle of or wherever, and you have to find it, and whoever finds it wields the power of Thanos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Any way to make a little bit more money?
That company is making money hand over fist.
They can do no wrong.
And they gave it away.
I wanted to ask Flynn something. You're a big fan of Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. Did you know that Amazon's going to be coming out with a show? They paid, what, $300 million, and they already designated $1 billion for the show?
No,
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah,
And they have to do it
probably
within
tapping into
two.
Silmarillion.
It has to be
Really?
released within two, else they'll lose the $300 million.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean,
So I figured you're a fan.
I
so.
am, but I'm terrible with keeping up with.
Well,
you
we
guys
talked about
are
it
my
on the
hub
show.
of pop culture.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
me too. Yeah, I'm gonna use you guys to decide what
That's
I'm
it,
watching
yeah.
next. So
We'll try and keep up.
keep up on it.
And then we could talk about Luke Cage. The second trailer came. Well,
Did you catch up on the first season?
I am.
It's good, man.
I have an episode left. It started getting better. It did.
Yeah, it's good.
And
I
I
like it.
got up to 7, and I was kind of.
That's why I was on the first Jessica Jones. It was like,
I was on my phone.
Yeah, you have a kindred spirit in Mark.
what's that?
Mark likes Iron Fist.
Hell yeah, dude.
And he likes the second.
So did you like it? Because I didn't like it at first. I liked it. I watched it, and I like pretty much sat through it until I watched
Defenders.
Defenders, and then I went back and watched it, and then I was like, man, this is good.
So I'm not as big of a fan as you guys are with the Marvel TV stuff. I actually like the DC CW stuff better.
Again.
Oh,
Again.
dude. Yo, me and you
dude, they're
we're
like-
boys, dude. Guilty pleasure here.
It took me forever to get.
Well, he
into
hates
Marvel.
Back to the Future, so. No, I'm kidding.
He actually likes them all.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
sweet.
So Iron Fist was the first Marvel. Like, you know, it was one of those. It's on my list. I gotta watch. Everybody tells me I gotta watch them.
Yeah.
Iron Fist. For some reason, I was scrolling and it was just came out. I was like, all right, let's go. And I went through it and I was like, man, I really like that. Which got me to go back to Daredevil. I watched that, and then I watched the first season of Jessica Jones, and I really loved Kilgrave.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, I was like, you can keep it. And I watched about 2 episodes of Luke Cage before I gave up on that. And then I watched Defenders. But no, I liked it from the first watch.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I thought it was really cool.
The CW shows. Okay. All right.
They were talking about
Nah, yeah, I was getting
lot.
Yeah, I see that you don't really watch that. Do you watch any of them?
I watched first couple seasons of The Flash, first couple seasons of Arrow. I haven't gotten back to
Okay.
them.
So like I'm still on the Flash. Green Arrow, I'm gone.
You're done?
I was out.
I understand it.
Dude, it was decent, and then the way they did Roz, Rage, Al Ghul, and the whole Lazarus Pit, I was out. That's when I catch
You never
out.
knew, yeah, everybody was coming back at one point. Yep.
and they used it as like it was like, you know, like the fountain of youth. I was like, dude, this is ridiculous.
I think I really like Stephen Arnell though. He's good.
Oh,
as the
yeah,
Green
yeah.
Arrow, and I never knew anything about the Green Arrow. I started watching. I was like, so Batman.
Yeah.
just Batman. That's what we're doing again.
Yeah, he's Batman with arrows. That's exactly what he was.
It really is.
And that's why I was.
And I liked him, and his younger sister on that show. Oh man, that makes my heart go fast. She's
I
amazing.
love how impractical arrows are as a superhero weapon.
Yeah, it's,
yeah.
and there's
the
always
worst
some-
thing ever, dude. It's like
and
the
those
worst
shows,
thing.
they're very CW, which it's like a guilty pleasure for me.
Oh yeah, it is.
But and this kind of us meandering, the only thing worse than the arrows as a weapon was when they were doing Suicide Squad, and they brought in Captain Boomerang.
Oh,
I was like, you know what's worse than arrows? A boomerang.
yeah.
Yeah, I still never watched that movie.
Yeah.
I can't
it's
watch
not
it through and
worth- it's not
through.
worth
I
it.
just can't do it. As soon as I see the Joker, I'm like, I just can't
Yeah,
take
I
If you go
I
to the
watched
end of
The
your
Flash
days, Nick, you'll
first.
be fine.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
The
And
Flash
then
is good.
Legends of Tomorrow. I watched the first season.
Yeah, and then you're
never
out.
again.
You watch Krypton?
Krypton's
No,
awesome.
I haven't.
You'd
seen it.
like that.
You would check. It's on Sci-Fi. You don't have Sci-Fi though.
I'm real picky with DC. I don't
Supergirl
like DC.
sucks, dude.
I won't touch Supergirl. With a
It's
10-foot
terrible. It is.
I'm not going anywhere near
bad.
it. Even the crossover episodes they had with her.
It's
Just like,
bad.
no, thank
It's
you.
really, really bad.
That's ratings grab when they do crossovers.
Well, they do.
I
that
liked
to, like,
them though. I mean,
I
they're
did
pretty
too.
good.
When they did the Arrow and the Flash.
Yeah,
They did
yeah.
that mostly, and
then
then
they
they
did it
started
all.
doing the Heroes of Tomorrow
Yeah.
or whatever, and then
Yep.
Supergirl.
Yeah.
Which I got nothing against Supergirl, but she does not get fucking infections. She is Supergirl.
She got an infection?
Did she get an infection on the show?
She got like cut, and they got like an infection. She gets hurt all the time. She gets like beat up. It's
She
like
needed
the only person that can beat you up is either Superman, maybe.
she
or
needed
Zod,
Neosporin or something.
or Doomsday,
Or just go out in the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing as
Yeah.
Superman, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
A piece of
DC
kryptonite hits you in the head.
Yeah.
got so
And
many
by the way, I
problems with
think
DC.
every piece of kryptonite, I think the whole planet eventually showered down on Earth at one point.
I know they're everywhere. It's like every time you turn around, there's a piece of kryptonite here. Lex Luthor has like stores of it in stock.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not.
But
having it.
DC reaches too much, you know. They
Yeah,
reach-
you got
like,
that
They got
right.
a super dog, don't they?
Well, we were just talking about that. They had two of the most iconic characters in comics, and they just shit all over it. They just they
With
did.
Batman and Superman.
Unpopular opinion, don't like Batman.
Really?
Yeah, I
Well,
like-
all the Batmans, like because there was like pretty
the
much like
first
two.
time I ever found myself interested in Batman was Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked that whole thing because it was like
Again, it was
he
the
wasn't
villain, though,
fighting
that made it,
Superman
though.
for one, which is dumb.
Yeah, it is dumb. It doesn't make
These two are
any
going to
sense.
have their own show.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any. Dude,
was that? What was
it
that?
does not make any sense.
Batman versus Superman.
Oh, yeah.
All
Yeah.
it does is piss me off.
Yeah, you got to
But I had
understand.
similar trouble with Civil War, buying the motivations there. Because not only were, I think, they just kind of stupid motivations to begin with, but then everybody kind of swapped. Like Tony Stark, who's this rebellious guy, he becomes the
loyal guy.
the guy who wants to
Government.
work for the bureaucrats. Give me
Yeah.
a break, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit of a jump.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble with that. Just
I
as
just-
much as I did with Batman and Superman getting into a fight.
See, what
I didn't mind the Batman Superman thing because
That was the comics, and that's what you've always
that
wanted to see.
Frank
the suit.
Miller, man.
Yeah.
That Frank Miller, and you got to admit, Superman
Now, is
wasn't
that-
trying to hurt him.
Are you saying it from
In the
comics?
comics.
Oh, you're saying it from the comics. So I haven't read the comics. All I have was
Yeah.
the movie, and the motivations in the movie I just thought were
Yeah,
really
see,
bad.
in the comics, they know each other. They know each other really well, and
Yeah,
he's
well-
like, and just that piece alone would have been so much more palatable as far as them two getting into it because he's literally like, he's like Bruce. He's almost like Bruce. I could end this in a minute. You know, he's like, stop. You know, it's almost like your kid having a tantrum, and you're like, and you're holding it back, like, stop. That's enough. You know what I mean?
And that's that whole Superman's only weakness is his compassion. And like to me, I can't relate to that because I wouldn't have that problem. If I had laser vision and I could freeze you with my breath, there'd be a lot less people around.
Not to
There'd be
mention,
no
why would you
traffic.
even? He has kryptonite over there. Why would I go over there? I'll just blow the shit out of you from all the way over here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he's the
don't
hardest-
even go near him.
Yeah, he's hard to write for sure.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
There's a I think it's Astonishing Superman. No, that's Astonishing X-Men. But there's a Superman comic book run, and I'll remember it, where he goes and saves. He gets outsmarted by Lex Luthor. That's why Lex Luthor is such a compelling villain. He gets outsmarted because there's this scientist friend of Superman who's doing this scientific research on the sun, and he's like in the sun's corona, right? And so there's Lex Luthor sets up this tragedy, and I think it's All-Star Superman. And he sets up this tragedy, and Superman goes to save the day. He gets so close to the sun that
I think you told me this one.
Oh, I did?
No, but you didn't tell us, but go on.
He gets so saturated with the sun's radiation, which at a distance it powers him. That's where he gets his superpowers from, the red sun. And but this is too much, so it starts to kill him. It's almost like cancer. And I was like, that's clever. That's a clever way to undo this guy. You know, you outsmart him, you take advantage of his weakness, which is his good passion, and then you spring a trap on him. That I think is a compelling motivation, or how to kill him. But it goes into a much deeper story. But the way they wrap it up, they basically, I'm just going to spoil it if you guys aren't going to read the comic. But the way they wrap it up is that they go. Fast forward like hundreds of thousands of years, and the descendants of that Superman eventually become the descendants of what Earth evolves into, which is like, I believe I'm getting this right, Krypton. And
Our Krypton-like society, you mean?
yeah, but the House of El comes back up. And the way they write it, they sort of keep peeling away at these names, and they evolve. And it's really the House of El is descended from Lex Luthor, and not from Superman.
That's clever.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, and if they ever decide to do that, don't get a good fucking Lex Luthor. Don't get a little sweeney
Yeah.
little fucking bitch. If there's one thing I had a problem with that movie, I just couldn't take it.
What's it? Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah. He was a brilliant evil guy, not Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah,
he was
he
a
need
weasel.
power.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't need Facebook.
That's the other thing I think DC does wrong is they have the better villains, I think, in a lot of cases, like Joker and maybe not when you start getting into like the Penguin and the Riddler and stuff, but they got a lot of like Lex Luthor I've seen portrayed in the comic books mostly as great. I mean, like, as somebody really keeps you interested.
He's a
Whereas
guy,
the superheroes in DC, not so much.
Lex Luthor always reminded me in Dr. No, like a Bond villain that had every angle covered.
Yeah.
When you put Jesse Eisenberg in there, it just seems like he's a goofball. Like, he's just throwing stuff against the wall. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have it planned out well. And you want to think of Lex Luthor as an older guy, not some young little punk kid.
You didn't like him in Zombieland?
Zombieland is
I
amazing.
love Zombieland. But it's not because of
Stretching
him.
before he goes.
It's not because of him.
I
though.
like Eisenberg. I didn't like him as Lex Luthor.
Right. And I like him in Phase. I like him in a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
I just don't like him in that movie. Because Lex Luthor is not... It's not. It's like going back to Spider-Man for you. He wasn't cool.
Yeah, that pissed me off.
You
When he
know,
did the Amazing Spider-Man.
Lex Luthor is not
You don't
an
make
idiot,
Peter
a
Parker
moron.
fucking cool, man. That
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But that's how
I
it
just
is
don't
for
like
Lex
Andrew
Luthor with
Garfield.
me. I always thought Lex Luthor just seemed like a guy that was in control almost of every aspect. He was the world's smartest man, so he can almost anticipate people's movements and
Well,
their
dude,
thoughts.
think about that. I mean, goes back to Pat and I, that what we talked about earlier, which is you build these traps that seem like they're impossible for your heroes to escape from. Right, and then that's why the Joker in Christopher Nolan's Batman was so compelling because it was like, here's Bruce, and frankly, he outwitted Batman.
Oh, he did. He did.
And because he thought that Batman would never
Cross that line.
and do what he did as far as the surveillance thing, and that's how he eventually got caught.
And he also bet against thought that people would push the button and blow up the ship. And, they made it so that didn't happen. But to your point and to Pat's point, the villain a lot of times makes the movies. Like Avengers.
Every time.
Yeah, Thanos.
was perfect. He probably had the most lines in that movie, and he talked to every one of the characters, and he almost revered some of them. Even Stark, he's like, I forget what he said to Stark exactly, but it almost made you feel for him just a little bit, even though you knew he was a total freaking scumbag. He's going to destroy half the universe. But you felt for him. Even the Joker and
I think he was angry about his nutsack chin.
Could you imagine Deadpool going up against him?
Wouldn't kill him.
No.
Right? He stabbed him a million times. Did you see the trailer where Josh Brolin is Cable?
Yeah.
He's like, pow, 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 pow. And he does the same exact moves, cutting out the
Still
bullets.
hitting him, yeah.
And he's like, oh, shit. So we're getting on an hour, gentlemen. We got a couple things to look forward to. I mean, we have speaking of Deadpool, I did a good little segue there.
Yeah.
We got Deadpool coming up. It's coming out this weekend, actually.
It's this weekend
Already?
Wow.
I'm sorry, 2 weekends.
By the way, he's still trying because he wants to do another one already, Ryan Reynolds, and he's still he constantly is hounding Hugh Jackman to be in Deadpool.
I hope it works for him. I hope he gets it together.
He's really like, because Hugh Jackman's. I don't know even know who does Deadpool. Sony.
It's the same company. Yeah, Sony.
I don't even know if they could pull Wolverine
Or
over.
Fox.
I don't even think
I can't
If
remember.
it's Fox, then they could. If the deal hasn't gone through, then he could still do it. Pull Wolverine over, and he's trying. Like there was an article every time he like runs into him or he messages him. He's like,
Well, they
really
did that
trying.
goofy thing where he was trying to sing "Happy Birthday" to his
Yeah,
wife.
yeah, yeah,
And Ryan Reynolds was in the background on his hotel bed.
yeah. So just that would be like if he pulls it off. I think that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah. So Deadpool May 18th. That's our next one up. It's I'm really looking forward to that, and then it's Solo after that.
Nice.
So, anything else? No, gentlemen. Thank you for joining the fray, joining the conversation, Pat and Mark.
Thank
it was
you.
a
Thank you.
pleasure,
Yeah.
absolute pleasure having you guys in on the conversation. And like we say in practically every episode, it's a conversation. And it's only as good as the guests that we have. And you guys made a great episode, so I appreciate it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this week's episode of the Nick, Jon, and Jamie Show. Join us next week for some fun laughs and frivolity as we get into some more geeky goodness. Have a great week, everybody.